Welcome back. This is literacy class as usual. Today's topic is on conditional sentences. Conditional sentences. What are conditional sentences? Conditional sentences, also known as conditional clauses or if clauses, are made up of two halves. One half, one half, the half with the word if in it's a condition, and the other half becomes the main clause stating the action to occur if the condition is fulfilled. At times, students tend to get confused with questions like, where is the if clause? Example, is it at the beginning or at the end of the conditional sentence? The types of conditional sentence here that we're going to talk about are as follows. There are three types of conditional sentences. We have the condition possible to fulfill, condition in theory possible to fulfill, and condition not possible to fulfill. That is, it has been too late. That is the third type. Now let's look at the forms of conditional sentences. Now, look at the type. Type 1. If clause. Under if clause, we have the simple present tense. Then the main clause it becomes will, future, or modal and future. It means will, future, or modal plus future. Then the type 2, we have the simple past, which becomes would and infinitive. Then we have the past perfect, would plus have plus past perfect. Let's look at example 1. If clause at the beginning. Type 1. If clause. If I study, I will pass the exam. The main clause. The main clause. I will pass the exam. It makes sense. The main clause. If I study. Now the second one, if I studied, I would pass the exam. If I studied, I would pass the exam. Then the third, if I had studied, I would have passed the exam. It makes it the past perfect. If I had studied, past perfect. If I had studied, I would have passed the exam. I would have passed the. Now let's look at this clause, if clause at the end. We looked at the one that the clause begins at, the if clause begins at. Now we are looking at the other type which ends with the if clause. So we have type 1. I will pass the exam if I study. I will pass the exam if I study. It means we're dealing with the future. I will. Now, type 2 means I would pass the exam if I studied. I would if I studied. Then I would have passed the exam if I had studied. If I had studied, I would have passed the exam. I would have passed the exam if I had studied. It means over here we are having the if clause at the end. So it is just as if we have turned it the other way around. Now, let's look at the third example where we have the positive and the negative sentences. Now, we have the long forms and we have the short or contracted forms. If I study, I will pass the exam. If I study, I'll pass the exam. It's been contracted. I will becomes I'll pass the exam. Then the next one, if I study, I will not fail the exam. If I study, I will not fail the exam. If I study, I won't fail the exam. If I study, I won't fail the exam. Then we have, if I do not study, I will fail the exam. If I do not study, I will face the exam. And then under the contractor form, we have if I don't study, I'll fail the exam. So, as student, I believe we have come to understand all that we have discussed. It makes it interesting. So we have basically the three main types of the conditional sentence. That is the if clause. So we have where the if begins, and then we have where the if clause ends the sentence or the statement. And then we have a situation where we have the positive and the negative sentences where we use the if clause. Where we use the if clause. And under the positive and the negative sentences, we have the long forms, and then we have the short uncontracted forms. Thank you. So, as students and in our homes, I believe that we can quickly and easily try our hands on these things. And then also, the books, these topics can be captured in the guide textbook, the guide English textbook for further studies. For further studies. However, you are being prompted to form conditional sentences with the following in the comfort of your home. Number one, I will pass the exam. I will pass the exam. Number two, I would pass the exam. Number three, I can pass the exam. Number four, I could pass the exam. Number five, I might pass the exam. Then number six, I may pass the exam. Then number seven, I shall pass the exam. Then number eight, I should pass the exam. Then nine, I must pass the exam. So as student, I believe you can easily work around this in your home. So till we meet again next week, all that I'm saying is bye bye. Thank you.